Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the broadcast. It is Friday, August 31st, 2018. I'm your host, Josh Reeves, and I'm here with you for another edition of the show. 2 in a row. How about that? Now, I had, like I mentioned last night, I've got so much stuff that's been piling up for so long, and I didn't even get into any of that really last night. So even though I had nothing prepared last night or nothing prepared tonight yet again, still got plenty to talk about and get into with you here on the show this evening. So strap in and I'll, like I said, I'll give you as much as I can, time permitting, and how I'm feeling and all that stuff. So we'll get into it. Man, I don't know. I saw a comment today on yesterday's show, and hey, look, I get it. You know, there are new people coming in all the time. I get that, but this is not the first time I've had a comment like this. So, I don't know. It's frustrating. It's frustrating to, have been doing this and I don't know. I don't know what to blame it on. I don't know how to remedy it other than to just point people in the right direction. That's really the only remedy I have for this, but it's incredible how many times over and over again. Again, this is my 11th year making documentary films, my 11th year doing this show, The Global Reality. Started in September 2007. The same month I put out my very first film, 9/11 New World Rising. And shortly after putting out that movie, I guest hosted for a radio show, a truther radio show that I was a fan of and a listener of, and had been on as a guest to promote my film. This person who was doing the show went out of town to go to a 9/11 Truth event and had me co-host, or rather fill-in host for their show for 2 nights. I'd never done a radio show before. I'd been guests on them, but so yeah, I did those 2 shows, and before long, people were saying I needed my own show, and then I did get my own show a few weeks after that. And when I had put out my first film, 9/11 New World Rising, we had a premiere here in Dallas at the Lakewood Theater, and with the 9/11 Truth group that I was in at the time that I helped co-found. And we were trying to have a guest speaker come for this event we were going to have. And we were going to have a guest speaker and then show my film. So we were basically looking for anybody. One of the people that I'd contacted, I didn't really know much about this person at the time. I just knew that they'd written a book about 9/11, and I knew that they'd done research into JFK, and that he'd come to Dallas a lot for JFK events. So I was like, okay, well, there's, he's written a book about 9/11. He comes to Dallas every November for conspiracy or, JFK stuff anyway. So maybe we could get him here for to be the speaker at this event. And that was Professor Peter Del Scott. He didn't end up doing the event. He had something else going on, couldn't make it, and we ended up getting William Rodriguez instead as the speaker. Fast forward a couple of weeks later, and this is the week I'm starting this show for the first time towards the end of September 2007. And I get an email from Peter Del Scott, and he says, hey, I can come to your event now. I'm done doing what I was doing. I was like, well, that was like fucking 3 months ago when I contacted you, dude. The event's already happened. It's over with. But now that you mention it, I just started a radio show this week, and I could really use a guest. Why don't you come on and be my guest? And he said, okay, cool, I'll do it. So it was like the second show I did. I came right out of the gates. Second show, boom, I had Peter Del Scott on. And people have asked me what I think about him now. Well, I never had, don't get it twisted. I was never like a big fan of his anyway. And if you actually read his book on 9/11 like I did, it's very contradictory. He's done a lot of, he's done a lot of deep research, a lot of stuff that goes deeper than a lot of people have. It's just, I think because he's, former Canadian ambassador and stuff like that, he sort of regulates how far he'll go on certain subjects. Because like his 9/11 stuff, he says, in his book, he says that, yes, the United States government had a hand in 9/11, but it was still done by, 19 Arabs with box cutters. You know what I mean? So I was never a big fan of his anyway. The only reason he's significant in my specific story is because when I had him on as a guest that week on the second show I ever did, I started talking about, I was talking about different groups that influence the political spectrum across the board in not only in the United States, but throughout the world. Trilateral Commission, CFR. And he pops off and says, those groups don't have as much power as they used to. There's this other group. They're called the CMP. They were started in Dallas. They got the Hunt brothers. They've got this person and that person. And I'm going, whoa, wait a second here. And I couldn't hear him very well because it was coming through the phone and I had headphones on. So I didn't really understand what he said. But later when I listened to the rebroadcast, I was like, oh, what is this CMP thing? Council for National Policy. I've never heard of this. So I start looking into it and digging into it, and I'm just, because you got to remember at this time, also what was going to was the heart of the Ron Paul campaign hysteria and stuff, and they were, doing exactly what they did later with Trump. They were the early run of that was getting all the truthers and everybody on board with Ron Paul, and you had people who were. And I saw people in the 9/11 group I was in. I couldn't believe these people who were like hardcore, left-wing liberal types who were registering Republicans so they could vote for Ron Paul. And that was even my first clue, because I was a fan of Jones and stuff too for a long time, but that was one of the first clues where I knew something wasn't right with that going on. Because anybody that's done any kind of research would know for themselves, this is where I was coming from, that both sides, left, right, doesn't matter. You're a politician. You're not playing for the right team. What is this? That's when I knew, okay, this guy's trying to get people back into the, he's being used by somebody to drag people back into the phony left, right paradigm. But then, when I did that show, that was like on Thursday, my first week of doing shows with Peter Del Scott, I start looking into the CMP, and lo and behold, all these people on the CMP, it's like a who's list of Alex Jones show guests at that time. I started finding connections of people that were connected to Ron Paul and stuff. And I went, oh, man. And let me tell you, nobody wanted to hear about it. When I was first starting to find that stuff out, nobody wanted to hear about it. It's taken a long time. It was more taboo than you could imagine when I first started uncovering it, folks. Nobody wanted to touch it with a 10-foot pole. Because everybody was still living the dream that the truth movement was real, and, nobody wanted to think about infiltrators or anything like that back then, or that anything wasn't on the up and up. I mean, people kind of had rose-colored glasses on. And here I come. I haven't even been, it sucked because, you come out of the gates the first week that you're on air saying you've got new info, because it was just fucking synchronistic, man, how it happened for me. One of those meant to be things. Think about that. Can you imagine being a noob and being a new jack? Especially back then. I mean, now there's thousands more people doing this kind of stuff. Back then, there were only a handful of people like me and others doing this. And here I come, a nobody that nobody knows, a new jack out of the gates, and I'm coming out basically right out of the gates telling everybody that all these sacred cows of the truth movement are not what they appear to be and seem to be working with these other high-level people, because you had people like Rothschilds and other high-level, people connected to the CIA and whatnot involved in the CMP and on the board of governors, and people who had, been ensconced with the CIA for many years. And it was tough, man. It was a tough fucking go. But I knew right then and there somehow I had to make a movie about I just put out my first film, and I hadn't really thought about what my second one was going to even be yet. But immediately, as soon as I found out about the CMP, I said, well, this is it. I've got to, by hook or by crook, I got to expose this. So I spent that time doing research and working and doing my radio show and building up everything. And then that culminated in me putting out the volume 1 of The Secret Rite in 2009. Now, what you'll find there's something I did very intentional about that film that a lot of people might not know. I intentionally did not mention Alex Jones in that film, even though I already had the goods on him. You'll notice that I did not mention, even though I fingered a lot of people connected to him in that film, it was not an oversight. It was a direct intent of mine to not mention Jones at all in that volume 1. And the reason I did that is because back then, you got to understand, a lot more people are awake to Jones now than they were then. Most everybody was still brainwashed by him. There was a very small handful of people that weren't under the spell of Jones back then. And it just wasn't like it is now, So I knew that if I came out of the gates in that film immediately with stuff going against Jones, that's all people would focus on. And they would just call me a hater or this, that, and the other or whatever. Because really the most important thing was the CMP information. So that's why I didn't even go into Jones and any of that stuff until volume 2. But I got this comment from last night's show that said, you should make a movie ripping old Alex Jones. You'll be on top then, bro. Look, again, I get it. This person's probably a noob. He probably hasn't even been aware of my work very long. He probably doesn't know what I've done, what my history is. I get it. But that's why I always make it a point to tell you to check out my download shop. That's where the bulk of my main, other than radio shows, the bulk of the work that I have done over the last 11 years is in that download shop. All the audiobooks that I've done. By the way, speaking of the audiobooks, and speaking of next month being the 11-year anniversary, right now we've got the 10-year anniversary box set I put out last year, the audiobooks, that has all the audiobooks that I've done, with the exception of the Covert War on Rock, because that came out after the box set. But anyway, from now until the end of next month, you can get the 10-year anniversary box set. I think it's like, 93 hours or some shit. All my audiobooks, everything's in there. It's now on sale for $20. It's regular $30 for the next month. You can get it right now on sale. That's a lot of fucking info for $20, so definitely get that. But, I understand new people come in all the time. I understand that not everybody's aware of all the stuff I've done. But look, this is not the first time this has happened. Hey, man, why don't you talk about this subject? Hey, man, why don't you talk about this? And I'm like, yeah, I did. I did 10 years ago. I made fucking movies about it. Made 2 movies about it. Make a movie ripping it. Like, seriously, dude, I was exposing that son of a bitch when nobody wanted to hear about it. Okay? So I'm not coming down on you, but you need to go, instead of telling me I need to make a movie about Alex Jones, why don't you go to my download shop and get yourself downloads of all my shit? Like right now. Just go download all my movies and watch them all. Get them one at a time. But, Jesus Christ, man. I told you that Spellcasters Volume 1 came out in July of 2016. Think about when the election was. November 2016, right? Go watch the Spellcasters Volume 1. You should watch it anyway and watch Volume 1.5 while you're at it too. Since Volume 2 is going to be out soon. And 3 after that. But in Volume 1, July 2016, before the elections, I showed the Jones-Trump connections, the connections to Scientology, the connections to Russia. Before there was any talk of the Russians meddling in the elections, I've got the info in there. I mean, I told people a year before, there are radio shows, I think some of them even here on YouTube, a year before the elections, I said, no question about it, Trump will win. Because he had the CMP guys behind him. He had their support. And if you get their support, you get elected. That's the way it is. How do you think W got elected? He was trailing way in the polls. He was way behind. He went to a Council for National Policy meeting in San Antonio, Texas. And he basically nodded and agreed to every request they had. Agreed to only appoint, fucking Supreme Court judges that were anti-abortion, this, that, and the other. But that's what they do. They vet out all presidential candidates. And if you don't, they are basically the main gatekeeping group that will either assure or deny that a Republican candidate gets the presidency. And, I've been exposing Jones harder and longer than anybody has, than anybody else has. 11 years now I've been exposing this guy. And I'm sorry, it's just a little frustrating, telling me you should make a movie ripping old Alex Jones, hurt. Oh, it's frustrating. But when I look at my stats and I look at the people, how many listeners we have, and I look at how, the movies how many sales we've had of movies, and look, a large proportion of you out there that are listeners have never even watched most of my movies. And as I've said before, I've said it once, I said it again, I ain't putting all the top info out on the free radio show I'm giving out on YouTube. Okay? You want the hard, deep research and info and stuff that, these aren't little YouTube. Why do you think I don't make these things and just upload them to YouTube? Because I'm not making, these are big productions here with lots of money to go into them, lots of time, research, and effort, and care and attention. And I do every element of it front to back. The editing, the voiceovers, the researching, this stuff takes a long time. That's why there are teams of people that work on films. When you have one person doing every element, it takes a lot of fucking time. It takes a long time. It takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of resources. And when you watch something, when you just watch a film, it's nothing to you. You just probably think, oh, that he probably did that, no problem. It took 2 seconds. Just like an intro or something, it's 20 seconds. That probably took up 2 months of work. I've got one of my sequences in one of my films was like 30 seconds. That took like a month to do that 30-second fucking thing. And one of those sequences in Lost Secrets of Ancient America Volume 1 was like that. Where it literally 30 seconds, it just blows by you like nothing when you're watching it. But to me, it's like, damn, dude, that took me fucking a month just to do that one little part there. Anyway, yeah, it's just frustrating. It's not the first time, hey man, you should, what do you think about this? I have people that I know have been listening for a while, and, hey, and I'll be like, yep, you haven't bothered watching my films. You haven't bothered checking out any of that stuff. So, yeah, I don't know what to say. Again, go to the download shop. I put the links. If you're listening to this on YouTube, you've got you are aware of the little information part where it says read more. And I always got links in there to the place where you donate and where you go to the download shop and all that. If you go to my website, theglobalreality.com, right in the middle of the page, even though my website hasn't been updated in over a year and it sucks, and I know that, and I'm going to work on getting that fixed later in the year, and hopefully get somebody else who can be my webmaster for me. Right in the middle of the page, it says buy all Josh Reeves' films here, including Lost East of Ancient America, blah, blah. Click on that. It'll take you right to the download shop. All my films, audiobooks, everything are in there. I mean, if you're that far behind and you hadn't heard any of that stuff, you need to just go there and buy it all. And the thing about my films is they're not one-watch throwaways. And they're deep research efforts, and there's no fluff in these films. It's 100% info front to back. And some of them are almost 4 hours long. Anyway, it frustrates me. I get that a lot. Oh, how come you never talk about this? Actually, I have talked about it. I've talked about it for fucking 10 years. How about go check the fucking archives, check my films, check, this. It's frustrating. Go get all my films, man. I guarantee you there's going to be information in there, at least in some points, that you didn't know. The problem is, the older it goes back with my films, the longer, you lose perspective, because a lot of the films that I made when that information was in those films, they were not anywhere else. And subsequently, people take information from my films and it becomes kind of common nomenclature of the conspiracy movement, but nobody ever credits back to the source of where it came from. And nobody remembers that for a long time, that information wasn't there. That's going to happen unfortunately, that's going to happen with these Spellcasters films. I mean, there's nothing I can really do about it. But it is frustrating to know that information and research of mine that I've found that no one else has found, that's not on the internet, anywhere you search for it right now. And I'm the only one that knows that, and the only one that ever will knows that, because once I put these films out and the genie's out of the bag, all that information is going to be there for people just to take yet again and not credit back to me. And again, no one will even know better. Meanwhile, you got these ass clowns, making hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars a month off of their fucking little podcast shows. And they've been around for 2 or 3 years. They haven't been here for 11 years like I have. They've been exposing this stuff and exposing these clowns and have taken the hits that I have and have had to tough it out through times when nobody wanted to hear it. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that because it's frustrating to have been doing this as long as I have and doing it every day and made the sacrifices that I've done and barely made it by and survived every month to month just to do this, just to expose these fucking people and do the right thing, and then have people come along and act like I haven't been doing jack shit over here because they won't go and spend the little bit of money it takes to go and buy one of my films and check out my information. So I guess the lesson here is, I guess what I'm trying to say is, before you suggest, hey man, why don't you make a movie about ... Why don't you go watch all the things that I've done first? And then if you think there's a subject you'd like to see me make a film about, shoot me an email, leave a comment. Hey man, I don't think you've ever made a movie or done a video about ... this subject. What do you think about maybe doing something on this one day? And then if I've done something on it already, I'll point you in that direction. And if I haven't, I'll say, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Maybe I will do something like that. Or I'll say, no, that's a bunch of crap. It's been covered ad nauseum. There's no reason for me to cover it because a million other people have already covered it. So there's no reason for me to get into that. I don't have anything to add to that subject. But to just say, hey, you should make a film about this. Hey, you should make a 9/11 film. I did. It's my very first film. The very first one I ever made. Hey, how come you ever talk about Scientology? Excuse me? Nobody else connected the Scientology and the Truth Movement and all that stuff before me. Nobody. Period. Anyway, rant over, rant end. That's the end of that. I just, yeah, it just got to me. It just made my blood, it just made my blood boil. You know what I mean? It's like, what the fuck do you think I've been doing over here? Bro, as you called me, brosif. Oh, that's the ultimate douche. You know you got the ultimate douchebag on your hands if they call you brosif. Bro is one thing I can kind of handle that. Hey, bro, yeah, I'm cool with that. That's no big thing. As they break out brosif on you, that's when you know you got a uber douchebag on your hands. Hey, brosif, chill out. Ugh. What else? What else do I need to address here? Okay. So yesterday I discussed the estimation of when the film is going to be here. And I also discussed our fundraising efforts for the month and what we have left for our goal. And we, at minimum, have to raise $1,200 minimum by tomorrow. As I talked about yesterday, go back and listen to yesterday's show if you didn't listen to that one too, where I talked more about this. But yeah, we $1,200 minimum by tomorrow, and then the rest we can raise. We can wait and raise that until we'll have till Monday to raise the rest. But we have to raise a minimum of $1,200 by tomorrow. And like I said, if we get 12 people at $100 each, that gets it done. We actually did get our first and then second one today. So that's great. It's a good start because that shows me that people are listening and we got people that are following instructions. So if we get more people to do that, we'll be able to reach our goal. So shout out to Michael. Michael was our first person to come in at the $100 level. And then we had George come in today at $100. So shout out to Michael. Shout out to George. You guys rock. George and Michael will both be receiving free downloads of Spellcasters Volume 2 and Spellcasters Volume 3 upon their release. So, Michael, George, when those films are out, be sure to email me and let me know. Just say, hey, can you send me over my free download? And I'll be happy to do that. So, what we need now is we need another 10 people minimum. 12 would be even better, but 10 minimum by 5 p.m. Central Standard Time on Saturday. I know there are 10 people out there, ladies and gentlemen, who can contribute $100 each. So we can keep this thing afloat. We're mere days here from the release of the Spellcasters Volume 2. Please do not let us go under at this time. This would be the worst time for all the work and all the fucking sacrifices I've put in not only me, but money sacrifices that other people have made during the course of the making of this film they've put in to ensure that this happens. Please don't let all this go to waste. How fucking retarded would that be? All it takes is 10 of you, $100 each by 5 p.m. Central Standard Time tomorrow on Saturday. And then, but we won't be out of the woods. We'll still need to raise whatever the remainder of that will be, which I guess would be, I don't know, another $300-400 by Monday. But if we can just raise that minimum tomorrow, we'll be okay. We need 10 people, $100 level. Every single person listening to this that can contribute $100, this is your call. And yes, even though I didn't announce it yesterday, I was going to kind of keep it as a secret until we actually had some people contributing. Yes, you will be getting downloads of Volume 2 and Volume 3 as soon as they are ready, if you contribute $100 or more between now and Monday. We also have some other perks available on the campaign page, $500 or more. You'll get lifetime downloads from the download shop, which means anything you want out of the download shop that I have in there, you just say, hey, I want these downloads. I send you the links. Boom, that's it. For life. A new movie goes up, a new audiobook goes up in there. Boom, you just email me. Boom, you get it. Donate $1,000 or more, you'll get the same thing, lifetime downloads. You'll get the Volume 2 and the Volume 3 when they were released, and you'll also get a 30-minute Skype session from me. That's for the $1,000 or more levels. So check those perks out. You'll also be getting a shout out here. I won't use your last name like I didn't with Michael or George. I'll just say simply your first name, and thank you for your contribution. So get those in. We only have until 5 p.m. tomorrow for that initial amount. So 10 people, $100. Come on. If you can't do the 100, just do what you can. As long as it's more than $20, as long as it's 20 or 30, $40 or something, I'll still give you a free download or something at least out of it, So there it is. Okay, let's get into the news now. I'm just not going to go in any kind of particular order here. I'm just going to go down the line. I've got so much stuff piling up for weeks here on the news, so I'm just going to blow through a bunch of this shit as fast as I can. Texas judge denies conspiracy theorist Alex Jones' effort to dismiss Sandy Hook defamation lawsuit, blah, blah, blah. Like I told you last night on the show, more of this is all smoke and mirrors, just like I told you 10 years ago. There'd be a controlled rise of Alex Jones. They would control his rise, and they will control his downfall. It's all a part of the psychological operation, folks. Don't be fooled. It's the other reason why you need to watch, if you haven't seen my films, The Secret Rite Volume 1, The Secret Rite Volume 2, The Spellcasters Volume 1, and The Spellcasters Volume 1.5. You need to see that, because that's where I detail how long this psychological warfare stuff has been going on, and how it's in conjunction with the CIA and with Scientology and with big-time military psychological warfare, people like Michael Aquino and others. So, again, instead of asking me why I've never made a film about Alex Jones, go and watch those films, and you'll see the information you need to know. Oh, give me a second here. I'm trying to... Stuff is loading up slow tonight. This is fucking bizarre. Agents from Air Force and Homeland Security raid Florida tomato factory, but won't go into specifics as to why. Don't let that blow by you too fast there. I'll slow it down for you if I need to. Let's see what we have here. We have a tomato factory in Florida. Why the fuck would you have Air Force people there? Air Force and Homeland Security? That's strange. I can understand Homeland Security. Why would you have Air Force there? What are they fucking... Is this the alien seeding program or some shit? They're fucking keeping this shit covered up? Is this how, like in the X-Files? Remember that shit? What was in the X-Files? Was that corn or some shit? Remember they were growing all that corn out in those cornfields, and they were spraying like the alien virus on it or something that would make people basically, have aliens fucking growing inside them, gestate, and then they fucking hatch out, and that's how the fucking colonization would begin. I don't know. That's bizarre. I can't say I've ever heard of another case of the Air Force being called out to an investigation for tomatoes. That seems a bit excessive and a bit bizarre. What was up with the fucking video game shit going on last week? I know everybody's been talking about the shooting, like the Madden football thing, but it seems like kind of, I don't know, I don't check all media outlets. I've been busy working the films, but it seems that it's been kind of largely ignored that we had two crazy, weird death events happen like right on top of each other, like 2 days in a row, involving people playing video games, or people are involved as high level, prominent video game players. The one that happened in Florida, though, that was, dude, it took me about 5 seconds of looking at that to tell that was fucking MK Ultra. That kid was under mind control. About 5 seconds. As soon as I saw the pictures of the guy, I went, oh, fuck, man. You could see it in their eyes, man. I've been doing this stuff. I've been looking at this stuff, this mind control stuff for so long now. And especially recently in the past few years with my work in the Spellcasters films, you could spot these fucking MK Ultra guys now, man, from a mile of fucking way. And as soon as I saw that guy, I went, oh, fuck, look at him. Clearly, this guy was under mind control. And then you read down in the very first article that came out, you read down, and of course, parents work for the government, mom worked for the government, dad was NASA. Every fucking one of these shootings goes all the way back to Columbine. Every time there's one of these fucking shooters, the parents work for fucking military contractors, NASA. It's the same old shit. But the other one that happened like the day before that was even more bizarre. An 18-year-old believed to have caused a deadly wrong-way crash on a California freeway was identified Friday as Trevor J. Heitman, a YouTube personality who had a large audience and customer base in the video game industry. This is bizarre. This dude, obviously he was banking. He got in a fucking McLaren. He decided to kill himself and drove the wrong way down a highway in a McLaren. Well, goddamn, if you're going to go out in style, huh? Fucking A, dude. It's a bizarre way to kill oneself, though, isn't it? Think about all the ways people kill themselves. Heitman died when his 2014 McLaren 650S he was driving entered the wrong way on the northbound 805 freeway in San Diego and collided with a 2010 Hyundai SUV carrying a 43-year-old woman and her 12-year-old daughter. They both died in Thursday's fiery crash. Heitman was a San Diego resident. Officials said in a local private school, the Loyola Country Day, lists him as a former student. But names of the mother and daughter were being withheld by authorities until their families could be notified. The British-built McLaren, which retails for nearly $460,000 new, disintegrated despite having an ultra-strong carbon fiber core, said California Highway Patrol Officer Jake Sanchez in a Friday news conference. The SUV was so badly burned, investigators couldn't determine whether the seatbelts had been employed or not. Authorities said, based on witness reports, that the McLaren was traveling at least 100 miles an hour. Right? He's probably going faster than that. You can do 0 to 60 in like less than 4 seconds in one of those, so surely he was going faster than 100 miles per hour. Heitman, known as McSkillet. Oh, wow. A real original name there. Take like the Mick from McDonald's, like the McRib, and add it on to something else. Well, that's clever, bud. McSkillet, on his 878,000 subscriber YouTube channel, used video clips to market skins, which are decorations for virtual guns and knives. Last year, he posted a video flaunting the black McLaren. Shortly before the collision, Heitman's McLaren crashed through a school fence at Ashley Falls Elementary School near Del Mar, California, a few miles away. The driver then apparently headed for the freeway, entering via an exit ramp and driving south in northbound carpool lanes. Another weird one that happened was the guy that took the plane up in Seattle. They shot that fucking guy down. Bigger than shit. They didn't shoot him down with missiles. They shot him down with the machine guns on F-15s, but the media has tried to cover it up and everything. No, they shot that fucking guy down. And that was a bizarre case, too. But when you looked at the debris field, everything was in tiny pieces, spread out over a long. They shot that guy down, just like they shot down. Listen, people don't want to hear that Americans shot down other Americans when it comes to air stuff. That's why they didn't talk. They didn't tell anybody they shot down Flight 93. Clearly, they shot that fucking plane down, because there was nothing left. But they're not going to go on TV and tell you that. They just say, oh, it crashed. And then, of course, when they got to the crash site, there was not any blood, not any debris, because it was vaporized. They vaporized that fucking thing. Let me see what else I got here. So much crap piling up. Oh, this is a great one. Wonder how long it'll be until Jonesy starts promoting one of these. He's got his fucking Ultra Male 5000 dick creams or whatever it is. The latest probiotic drink, a baby poo smoothie. There you go. That goes well with your stem cell smoothies that the elite, like fucking David Rockefeller, used to drink before he croaked, and fucking Henry Kissinger still fucking chomping them down. It's healthy, it's organic, it already comes in a smoothie-like consistency, and it uses a resource that we would otherwise just throw away. What's not to like about the latest promising probiotic supplement? Well, there's the fact that it comes out of a baby's bottom. Scientists have created a health cocktail made from scouring the nappies of infants and then culturing the bacteria they find within. After testing the resulting drink on mice and on a simulation of the human gut, they claim it could help people with diseases such as diabetes and autoimmune disorders by improving the production of chemicals called short fatty chain acids. Well, there also is the possibility that there are people who just are sickos and just want to drink baby shit. I can seriously see Jones Fox. We got the latest baby poo smoothies in here. I got to tell you what, I'm feeling great. I mean, it doesn't matter. These guys are slamming me in the media, and they're slandering my name, and they're trying to keep me down. The New World Order, fucking Soros is outside my door, fucking putting poo bags out there again. I mean, it's tough. I mean, you got to keep fighting these bastards every day. But I tell you what, I got some wonderful folks. I had to be a baby food smoothie before I came in here, and I'm ready. I'll eat fucking Soros's ear off right here on the fucking air. I don't give a shit. I'm ready to go. You will be defeated from a baby food smoothie. I'm telling you, folks. 1995infowars.com right now. Ted's got to come here and give you some deals on Jew Gold later as well. But really, you got to get yourself some of this TransFit 5000 we got in here. It's another new supplement we got. TransFit 5000 is great. I mean, if you're ready to, if you're ready to snip it off and have a vag and grow some man tits like I'm getting ready to do, watching that training porn, I tell you what, it's a good deal, folks. I wouldn't steer you the wrong way. Tell, get you some Jugo. We'll get you some Trans 5000 in here. You get some man tits growing in a baby food smoothie. You're ready to fight the New World Order and crush and defeat them. I'm telling you, it's coming. What else? What else? What else? What else? Oh man, there's been lots of space-based weapon stuff coming out. Lots of weird stuff about the moon. You know, all this stuff I've been telling you about, man, for years. It's all starting to come together now. The Pentagon's insane plan to arm missiles with lasers to arm satellites with lasers to shoot down missiles. And as I told you, that's what all this Space Force stuff has been about. We're going to see the false flag staged alien invasion before it's all over with, folks. Just like Wernher von Braun warned about in the 1970s. They're going to tell us non-hostile aliens are hostile, and all of it's going to be a lie. So we will weaponize space, which they can then use to enslave the people on Earth. Under pressure from Congress and the Trump administration to bolster its military presence in space, the U.S. Defense Department is once again studying ways of mounting missiles or lasers onto satellites in order to shoot down ballistic missiles before they can strike U.S. soil. But experts say there's no way to build an effective orbital missile shield that doesn't cost hundreds of billions of dollars. Boom. That's it right there. I mean, this was even the problem back in the time of von Braun. Even back then, this was the problem. Experts say there's no way to build an effective orbital missile shield that doesn't cost hundreds of billions of dollars. The only way you're going to get that kind of funding is if you convince the people of the world that first, there's a threat of asteroids and that we need to build weapons for that, and then B, there are extraterrestrial threats that we need. All of this stuff is going to be a front and a pretext for them to get us to fund their enslavement weapons. You understand? That's what all of this is. When they get on the news and they tell you the aliens are about to invade, folks, don't believe it. If I can give you any piece of advice that you take into consideration and use in the future, that's it. They're going to get on TV one day. They're going to tell you the aliens are real. They're going to tell you the aliens are here, but they're not going to tell you that, oh, it's great and love and peace and we all want to get together and share data and fucking sing Kumbaya. They're going to tell you they're a threat. We need to weaponize space immediately. We need to build a defensive space force. That's what all this is a pretext for, and it's all about getting us to fund this stuff. They've been funding a lot of this stuff on black budgets and stuff for so many years, but that only goes so far. Eventually, they have to get public funding out of it because they have to be able to fund the other black budget stuff that's coming in behind it. The 2019 Defense Authorization Act, which President Donald Trump signed into law in mid-August, directs the U.S. Missile Defense Agency to begin working on an orbital system that can hit enemy rockets while they're still climbing into space, the phase of flight where they're the slowest and most vulnerable to interception. The NDAA instructs the Missile Defense Agency to initially design the orbital shield around kinetic interceptors, that is, missiles that destroy other missiles. At the same time, the act requires the agency to begin looking at high-powered lasers that might eventually replace the kinetic interceptors aboard the missile shield satellite. An orbital missile defense system is not against the laws of physics. It might as well be in terms of difficulty and possibility of success. While the push for space-based weaponry coincides with Trump's own bizarre efforts to establish a space force, in fact, the congressional mandate, primarily backed by Senator Ted Cruz of Texas, was in the works long before Trump first mentioned the Space Force back in March. Right, but this is a new level of this. The Space Force is a whole different other level. It's the precursor and the pretext to them getting the public behind putting billions of dollars into the defense industry to not only develop these weapons, but then to employ them, and all under the lies that we need to protect ourselves from the shadow enemy, just like they've, the shadow enemy was fucking communism for so many years. And the shadow enemy now has become terrorism. And the new shadowy enemy is going to be theoretical space rocks and fucking invading aliens. Because it's the only way to get the resources of the entire world and not just one country behind this system. Let me see what else. Bear with me here. I got so much crap piling up. I got to go through it and find it all. Eric Prince is launching a cable news tour to convince Trump to privatize the war in Afghanistan. Mercenary troops will report to a U.S. envoy under Trump's direct command. Again, going back to my work on the CMP and the Secret Right films, just like I told you in the very first one. The Prince family has been instrumental in the CIA and in the CMP from its very beginning. Eric Prince's parents, Ed Grinnell's of Prince, they were on the board, the board of trustees, like the initial board that started the Council for National Policy. They were on it, and they also worked with the CIA as well. That's all admitted. Eric Prince admitted he worked with the CIA. These are the guys, who named their vehicles, the Templar 1, the Crusader 2. They really, really honestly believe they're the modern-day Templars, and these are the ones that are wanting to conquer Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, all those ancient places where all that ancient history took place, and all those, what referred to in ancient texts, Anunnaki cities, and, all that old stuff. These guys want to go in there and they want to decimate all that old history. They want to make sure all that stuff's wiped out. And why are they doing it? Because they're doing it for the bloodlines. That's where all this CIA, CMP, and all this stuff connects back to. That's how deep this stuff is, man. Inside Scientologists' bizarre plot to sell bogus meat to the poor. What the fuck? It just gets more bizarre, these fucksticks, doesn't it? In the summer of 1973, Conrad Romo, a 19-year-old boy from L.A. whose Catholic upbringing had been derailed by books like Herman Hesse's Siddhartha and John G. Neidhart's Black Elk Speaks, anything that spoke of more than just this world, turned on the TV and watched an advertisement for a new religion called Scientology. The ad was catchy, a tight 1-minute clip with a jingle from 70s radio star Edward Bear, and the vague promise of deeper meaning. When a phone number flashed across the screen, Romo took note. I'm a sucker for a little ad, Romo, now a gray-haired Buddhist with a goatee, told the Daily Beast. When he phoned the line to hear more, the boy spoke to a woman who called herself Spanky. Later, he would recognize her as Spanky Taylor, a spokesperson for Scientology's publicity arm, Axiom's Productions, and John Travolta's personal auditor. Jargon for a kind of counselor. But in the moment, he thought she seemed cool. Spanky had a really sexy voice, Romo said, laughing. I was intrigued. 40 years later, Conrad Romo would point to that advertisement as the genesis of a 14-year devotion to the controversial religious group. In some ways, Romo's story of Scientology resembles so many of the survivor tales told by ex-members. He got seduced, spent years of his life and thousands of dollars on Scientology, then woke up confused and lonely sometime in the late 1980s. But in recent interviews, Romo and several other former members explained another aspect of Scientologist life. One rarely reported on in the documentaries or chart-busting tell-alls, a niche industry that employed countless hopeful converts around Los Angeles and San Francisco for nearly a decade, selling meat. For 4 years, in the name of Scientology and its charismatic sci-fi writing leader L. Ron Hubbard, Romo drove a climate-controlled truck around greater Los Angeles, parked it outside food stamp stores, and hawked overpriced steaks to anyone who passed by. When Romo spoke to Spanky, she told him to come down to a place on LA's 8th Street near MacArthur Park. It was a Friday night around 10 p.m., just after a lecture had ended. Romo was initially turned off, he recalled. The area was kind of seedy, and Spanky hadn't mentioned anything about a church, which sounded stodgy and Catholic. But Romo introduced himself, he signed in, a member silently led him to a private room. In the room, Romo watched a short video of L. Ron Hubbard laying out the group's basic tenets and flipped through a copy of Hubbard's best-selling text, Dianetics. The member asked him to buy the book. He said no and left. Romo might have just walked out then and there, cult and meat-free, but as he was leaving, the bunch of members invited him to a party. He piled into a car with a group of good-looking young people. They were talkative, and the party was fun. Romo thought, even though, as a rule, Scientologists stay pretty straight edge. When the night was over, Romo's new friends had convinced him to sign up for the first Scientology course, Communications. Hubbard allegedly borrowed many of his practices from other religions, and Romo said the first course seemed lifted straight from Zen Buddhism. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, get to the fucking meat. I don't want to hear this whole fucking dude's story on fucking... Yeah, you got duped by the fucking cult. Next. I don't have time to read all this. God damn, this is like a novel. Anyway, if you want to look more into this, look into fucking Scientology. Apparently, it's just another one of the many fucking... But again, just like any of these stories, folks, just like I told you, they're never going to talk it, just like fucking what's her tits, Leah Remini, CIA. They're happy to talk about, oh, they split our family up. Crying sob stories, right? Or, ooh, they sold bogus meat, whatever bogus meat is. Meat. Was it bad meat? If it was bad meat, if it was expired meat, okay, that's one thing, but bogus meat, it's kind of, was it fake meat? Was it soylent? What the fuck? Give us the info here. Again, all this shit's low level. They won't touch the mind control. They won't touch the black magic. They won't touch the soul cracking. They won't touch the fact that at its core, this stuff with thetans and all this stuff is about conjuring demons. It's about each level of going up the succession levels of Scientology is about slowly, just like Freemasonry, just like the levels of Scottish Rite Freemasonry, same thing. As you go up each successive level of Freemasonry, all the texts and all the things are designed to slowly open up your subconscious mind, and you're slowly opened up for control. And eventually these entities attach to you. You don't even know it. And most people might not even know it either. Until you get up to the upper top echelons to where you are a fully controlled entity by these demons, thetans, whatever you want to call them, that are attached to you. It's the same fucking plan. They don't want to talk about any of that. Spellcasters Volume 1 has all the stuff they don't want to talk about Scientology. They'll talk about bogus meat. They'll talk about somebody getting abused, but they never want to get down to the fact that L. Ron Hubbard worked for the United States government. He did high-level ops for the OSS and the CIA. He was on the ground floor of when they were bringing Nazis over here after Project Paperclip and mining their data on using black magic and mind control to create mind-controlled soldiers. Okay? He went and learned and infiltrated the OTO to learn what they knew, what Crowley knew, so they could bring back and use that in MK Ultra and use that in the mind control stuff. And he incorporated all the stuff he learned into Scientology. I'll show you that in Spellcasters 1. They don't want to talk about that all day. They'll talk about fucking bogus meat or, they split our family up. They're terrible. They never want to get to the real fucking meat and potatoes about why Scientology is what it is and why it's evil and why it needs to be stopped. All this shit that's been claimed, acting like they're exposing Scientology, none of them are. Because none of them are bringing you what is actually real. It's shill bullshit. They're trying to convince you that the current leadership is the problem in Scientology, not Scientology itself. So they can oust Miscavige, bring in new CIA-controlled leadership, and roll out Scientology as the new Scientology. Oh, look, we got the crazies out. Now we can actually benefit you. Listen to all these people, dude. Even Joe Rogan was doing it, all of them. Well, some of this stuff doesn't actually sound like it's that bad. Sounds like it actually wants to help people. Joe Rogan himself said that. So have many others who have had on Leah Remini and all these other people. There are apologists for this stuff everywhere. Well, Catholicism, that's just as crazy. Well, yeah, you're right there. It's still all about. I mean, why do you think you got to have a fucking priest? Why do you got to have a Catholic priest for an exorcism? You ever think about that? It's because only those motherfuckers can talk to the demons. Why do you think you have to have a Catholic priest to calm a demon down for an exorcism? Why is that? Why not anybody else? Is it because they have special godly powers of Jesus and that allows them to quench demons? Fuck no. It's because they're in league with the fucking demons and they go in there and talk them down and go, look, bro, I'm on your side. You know how this shit is. Spit your pea soup, get the fuck up out of this bitch and go find another victim. Let's go. Boom. Takes a demon talker to get a demon out of somebody, okay? Here's another one. U.S. raises questions over abnormal Russian satellite and row over space arms race. So they're not denying it now. There is a space arms race going on, and again, they're going to use every manner of bullshit they can to sell you on why you need to use your tax dollars to fund their military programs that they're going to later use to further enslave us. They're going to tell us we need to save ourselves from asteroids. They're going to tell us we got to save ourselves from little green men. And all of it's going to be a lie to further enslave people, even more than they are now. This is the final in-game goal. All right. I know I've probably got a lot more I could talk about. I know for sure. Lots more. But listen, I got to get back on the stick here. I get back on this film and keep working to hopefully get this thing out in the next couple of days. But it's not going to be possible. Like I said yesterday, without you. None of this is possible without you. We need to reach a minimum of 1,000 of our goal by tomorrow at 5 p.m. or the entire thing. That would be even better too. If you can do 500, if you can do 1,000, if you can do 200, you can do 300, that's great. But if we get 10 people doing $100 each by tomorrow, we'll be good. Action time, folks. We're so close now. Let's kick these motherfuckers in the nads. Shall we? Let's do it. Love you guys. We'll talk again soon.